What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary. It's a podcast about trees and other related topics. Wow.
Huh.
I'm one of your hosts. My name is Alex Crowson. And of course, over there on the big green couch, we got ourselves a Casey Clapp on our hands.
That's me. I'm Casey Clapp. Thanks for the coffee. The couch is great. Let's get going.
Wow, a man all about the business.
Makes me feel like I'm important sitting on a couch, getting interviewed.
Totally. You just need sunglasses and a hangover.
That's all I need. And then everything will be perfect. You can't smoke in here.
Casey, before we jump into this week's treat, did you know that this podcast is run entirely through the generosity of our
mice in
Cinderella's castle?
They're running in little tiny things and they're making our dresses. This is how we live our lives.
No. Casey, you misunderstand. To the generosity of our fungal associates.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
The people who listen to this podcast and love it ever so much. And some of those people go to arbortrarypod.supercast.com and become premium members.
That's right.
What does that mean?
Well, Alex, that means that you become a part of a exclusive club.
Wow.
Pardon me, unexclusive club. And you get access to really cool things on the background, extra episodes. You get 20% off our store, everything on the store. You also get access to, if you join the Cone Club, all of our cones, which we send out once a month in perpetuity for as long as you're in the club.
And by cones, we mean stickers
of cones.
Of illustrated conifer cones.
Exactly right.
But every month, if you join the Cone Club, you are sent a brand new sticker, never before seen, illustrated by an independent artist. So you are supporting several artists in supporting the Cone Club.
That's right. And
you also get ad-free listening, which is something that we're very happy to offer. And it can all be found at arbortrarypod.supercast.com. It's ARBORTRARY pod.supercast.com.
That's right. Now take a breath, Alex. Now, if you are not into subscriptions, that's fine. You can also go buy yourself a fancy shirt. You can buy yourself a hat. You can buy yourself some stickers. Well, I should say, if you want any of those cone stickers, you have to go join the Cone Club. Then you get access to all of our old cone stickers, just shy of 50 now, I believe.
That's right. We even got patches, and those can be found at arbortrarypod.com/merch.
That's right.
And let's just say all of this can be found at arbortrarypod.com.
It's the point of access for everything.
That's right. This is the phone booth to our matrix.
Yes. Thank you. You get it, Alex. Now everyone else does too. The other thing that we should note real fast is we have an exciting new thing coming up.
What's this?
Well, it's a T-shirt, Alex.
Oh, God, yeah.
And by the time this comes out, it'll be then. And I think we should let them know.
Let's do it.
If you're listening still.
Yeah. We have a brand new T-shirt coming out.
We do.
When we say T-shirt, it's a long sleeve tee.
Exactly. Different than other sorts of tees.
Our first one ever.
It is. And I was wearing it. In fact, I think I have, I just washed it. I wore it for like 2 days straight.
You love that T-shirt.
It's great. It is such a cool shirt. And if I love it, I'm very happy to always tell people they should go get their own. So in this case, it's a long sleeve tee. It's entirely black and it has a drawing of one of the world's most favorite trees, the Dawn Redwood.
That's right.
It's super cool. We worked with our screen printer, Connie, over at Icon Artistry.
That's right.
And together we got a pretty cool shirt, I think.
And that illustration is by Evan App Roberts. And it's awesome. It's got a little... Can we just describe it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's black.
It is.
You've been asking for it with white ink. And on the breast pocket... Yes,
there's
it has
a pocket?
There's a little Dawn Redwood cone. And then on the back, there's a little collage. A Dawn Redwood, the full tree, a cone, and a little close-up of some foliage, and it says Completely Arbortrary. It is stunning. It's so cool.
Yeah. So these are all going to be printed right here locally with the expertise of Connie and all those folks at Icon Artistry.
That's right.
And we're going to be doing a pre-sale. And you know what? Heck, when you hear this, just get on the internet and go look it up. I bet you it's going to be there.
There you go. And our Treemium members will get first access to that pre-sale.
Exactly.
Although first access to a pre-sale doesn't really make any sense.
Oh, yeah, but nonetheless.
All right. Well, there you go. Some news from the show. And Casey, we will be right back after a break talking about the Himalayan pine. We'll be right back with Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. Today we are talking Himalayan pine.
Excuse me.
How are we?
Oh, we're doing great, Alex.
Casey, bundle up. Let's imagine that you and I are walking, I don't know, in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
We're on a bit of a vision quest, I would say.
That's fair. You know, I
pilgrimage.
think I have learned that generally speaking, folks just call it the Himalaya around there.
Is that so?
Yeah.
This is like an Appalachia thing.
I think so, yeah, but they would still say the Appalachians, you know?
It's not exactly like that.
Yeah, but it's on level.
It's a regional mountain word for a mountain range.
Correct, yeah.
That's how it's similar.
Exactly. They would say in this local area, the Himalaya. We would say the Himalayas.
Well, let's imagine we are a couple of locals walking through the Himalaya, and we come across some Himalayan pine. I'm assuming, let's ID this tree.
Let's do it, Alex. So we're walking through, and we're talking with the locals, and we say, hey, we want to go see the local important trees up here in the Himalaya. We would walk through, and you'd say, hey, we heard there's a really important tree up here that you have taken care of that is very important to your local area. And we expect that they're going to take us to the Himalaya pine. Now, the Himalaya pine is Pinus roxburghii.
Pinus roxburghii. Oh, wow.
Yeah, roxburghii.
A night at the roxburghii.
Yeah, exactly. Really, just going up to the Himalaya, you're chilling out.
And because of the wind up there, the pines are all like this.
Yeah, they're chilling. They're chilling. And then you look at it, and they point at you, and they point at me, and they point at you, and they point at me.
We could keep going forever with this one.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
What fun.
So this is a big tree. It's like 50 meters tall, needles and fascicles of 3. And it has these really weird cones that have these kind of like hooks on them. They're very tight, and they tend to grow up at high elevations. Now, these trees are used for resin and for timber, mostly. They don't really offer anything else.
Okay.
So when we go to these locals and we say, locals, hey, take us up to these interesting trees that we hear are very culturally important, we expect they're taking us to these trees that they cut down. And they say, no. And they take a left, and they take us over to a tree called Quercus leucotrichophora, otherwise known by their name, the Banj.
The Banj?
Yes, B-A-N-J.
The Banj.
Yes, the Banj.
And Quercus, that's an oak.
That's an oak tree, Alex.
What is
Tricho leucotrichophora.
Leucotrichophora. Phora.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that, in fact, Alex, is the tree we're talking about today.
What?
Rip all the things apart.
Oh shit.
Have to admit something here.
Oh no.
Which is a really fun part of our story. So when I was looking up this tree, I was like, oh great, where are these people? There's a couple trees that I know that are up over in the Himalaya, way up at the high mountains. One of which is a Himalayan pine. I know of the Himalayan white pine. I know of the Himalayan pine. One is Wallaceiana, the other is Roxburghii. Okay. There's also deodar cedar up there. And I was like, we've already done a cedar. We don't need to do another deodar. Let's do something else. So I chose a tree that I didn't know very well, which is Pinus roxburghii.
The Himalayan pine.
The Himalayan pine, correct. Not Himalayan white pine.
Right.
This is the Chur pine, actually. It's a better way. Let's just say Himalayan white pine and Chur pine.
Okay.
Is Wallaceiana and Roxburghii, respectively.
Okay.
I was like, great, I'm going to look up all these interesting things about these people and this Chipko movement like we talked about last week. And then it turns out that the villain in that story is the Chur pine. And the men who wanted to plant and cut them down. But we'll get to that sooner or later.
Wow.
So while doing the research, I realized, oh my God, I am a victim of my own forestriness, my own thinking, oh, well, what's the important tree here? I'm a victim of the very subject of our story.
Wow.
And in fact,
You're the victim, not the perpetrator?
I don't think so, because I guess, no, I'm not a perpetrator.
Prove you're not sexist now.
Oh, shit.
Name 5 women.
Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama.
They're all U.S. politicians.
You got it. Well, that's the first one you got to choose.
My mom.
My
sister. My ex-girlfriend.
So it turns out that the story revolves around that particular tree and the forced products you get from a commercial style logging operation. From Chur pine.
Okay.
Versus the larger benefits and ecosystem services and kind of ecosystem function that you get from a forest filled with this particular oak species called the Himalayan evergreen oak, or the Banj, B-A-N-J.
Wow.
So, Alex, should we start again?
Well, which one are we getting? Yeah, that's an obvious one. Let's start again. Casey, let's imagine. Wow, this is unprecedented. That you and I are walking through the Himalaya and we come across some Banj.
Wow, Alex, I think this tree is so cool. So here's the thing about this. It's a large evergreen oak.
Let's ID this tree.
Sorry. Grows about 20 feet tall to 100 feet tall. So, very medium to tall tree, depending on its forest habitat.
Okay.
And it grows usually between 2,000 and 8,000 feet elevation.
Wow.
So it's really high up there. For those of you who measure in meters, that's about to 2,500 meters.
Some of the highest in the world, no?
Gets super high. Well, yeah, I mean, we're in the Himalaya, right? So by the time you get up to there, then it becomes coniferous forest higher than that. And higher than that, you start getting nothing at all except for like a bunch of snow, and then every now and then, I don't know, cashmere, cypress, or some really tough old tree that can grow at high elevations over there.
Okay.
It gets wild. What? They're like, 25,000 feet tall, the like Everest and K9 and all these things?
I was going to ask. That's Everest, right?
Yeah,
It's Himalayan.
I think so. K2 maybe, I think it is.
Damn.
Yeah, huge mountain. So we're not going anywhere up towards there. That's just too high for little trees. However, this little tree is absolutely everywhere. It's one of the most common oak trees in the northern and western Himalaya. So it grows with a really interesting trunk that can get up to about 10 feet or 3 meters across.
Wow.
And this actually kind of surprised me. Oaks are generally not the most, let's say, bark endowed trees, barkly endowed.
Sure.
This one's got really cool bark. It actually looks a lot to me like, I don't know, the icebergs as they're like breaking apart and kind of smashing into each other.
Wow.
And they kind of develop seams in between them that match perfectly because they bump into each other a bunch.
Sure.
And so they are not actually, no, Alex, we're talking about the oak, not the Chur pine.
Are you describing the Chur pine?
No, you just said sure.
Jesus Christ.
Man, oh, that was so good. Everyone
went straight.
Can you hear everyone laughing around us? So it looks like kind of these weird puzzle pieces that kind of fit almost next to each other, but are not touching.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I would say it's very craggy.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good one.
It almost looks like the Himalayas themselves.
Looks like a Himalayas writ on bark.
From a what are they called? From a orbital view.
Yeah, looking down. Yeah. So it's got really interesting, beautiful bark, and it can become a really large tree. So that bark can really start to shine as it ages. Now, its leaves are like other oaks that grow in more temperate regions or in regions that are more semi-tropical.
These are interesting.
They are. They're evergreen too, which I just love. And I have to keep reminding myself, probably more oaks are evergreen than are deciduous.
Interesting.
We just don't really have a lot of them where we live, you and I.
I never think of an oak as an evergreen tree.
I think many people don't, unless they live in a place where they're like, I never think of deciduous oaks.
Right. But I love these leaves.
What do you love about them?
They're little lanceolate, probably, if my proportions are right, maybe 3 to 4 inches long.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right in the middle. They 2 to 7 is the maximum. So I bet you have actually said the more likely dimensions.
How about that? And they're simple leaves, but they've got a great margin.
Oh, tell us about it. Look,
very serrated.
This is fun. I like being on this side of it.
It's like a bread knife serration. It looks like a. This will come up later in the episode, but it looks like a deadly dagger.
Ooh.
It looks like I don't want to touch it because I think it's going to poison me.
It looks sharp and scary. Yeah.
It is sharp and scary, but it looks like it'll give me a rash.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
I see it and I'm like, don't go near that.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that makes sense actually because it doesn't give you a rash, but it is covered at the very beginning with a very dense tomentome.
Sure.
And that very densely pubescent hairiness also is on top of brand new leaves that emerge a pinkish purple when they come out. Like really kind of a beautiful, beautiful color. And as they mature and the leaves get kind of lignified, they become dark and evergreen on top. And then on the bottom, they are perfectly kind of whitish tomentose.
Yeah.
Very similar to an oak that you can find growing around Portland, certainly, called the evergreen, I guess they call it the Quercus hypoleucoides. It's an evergreen oak that's native down to Arizona. Okay. They're beautiful. Silverleaf oak is the name of that one.
Good
so
name.
Look around for that, and it has very similar leaf characteristics.
I like the leaves a lot.
Yeah, they are really beautiful leaves, and they are not poisonous, so you can touch them, you can hang out with them, you're going to be fine.
Okay.
The little acorns, though, are really kind of worth talking about because they're kind of like skinny and elongated, and they usually are in singles, pairs, or triples. So you only get 1 to 3 popping out in one space. And they're just like super adorable to me. Like they're just like a little bit longer than they are wide. Their cup covers just about, I don't know, 2/3 of the top of the nut. And it looks very like finely textured, the acorn cap. A lot of acorns I'm familiar with, they're kind of big and they kind of look a little rough. This looks like a very, very fine textured, like almost sandpapery top.
Interesting.
And I just think they look nice.
I love them too. And they've got a lot of these I'm seeing have sort of a white striation coming from the tip.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if striation is the right word there. It kind of is, though.
It looks like they're dusted on the tip,
yes,
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
with like powdered sugar.
Yeah.
Or somebody like took a spray paint and kind of did some work on the tip of the acorn there.
Yeah.
Beautiful look.
That is I forgot, I think there's a term for that. I can't remember it, but you see that in a lot of the beech family plants. So chestnuts, beeches, and oaks, and all the other weird kind of like half oak, half chestnut species. They all have that same kind of little kind of white tip on the end of their nuts. Alex, grow up. My God.
Got myself a little bit of a white tip on the end of my nuts. Is it bloom? Is it powder, or is it built into the nut?
It would be something akin to a powder, but it's more like a little bit of hair. So less than a powdery bloom, which is just kind of emitted from the outside of the leaf or whatever structure it is.
More of a tomentose.
Yeah, exactly. This is like little teeny tiny hairs that just kind of are there. But then as the rest of the nut kind of expands, they kind of just fall away.
Okay.
But because the tip doesn't really expand, it kind of stays the same size. All those very kind of prenatal little hairs on the little teeny tiny developing fruit just kind of stay. They don't get kind of knocked off.
It's a nice little look.
Yeah, it is. It's really an effective little everything about it, I think, is an effective planting tree.
So far, I like this tree.
Excellent.
I think of, the big triangle of identification. Well, it's more of a square.
Oh, tell me. You have not shared this with me before.
More of a triangle. Let me think. I'm talking fruit.
Okay.
And that includes cones and acorns.
Okay.
Any seed-bearing thing.
Okay.
Leaf and bark.
Yeah, those are the big three.
I think so.
So what would be the fourth if there was a fourth?
Well, if there was a fourth, I was going to say fruit, but an acorn is kind of a fruit.
I see, yeah. I think it's a good idea to smash that together with that other thing. So you have a triangle of attractiveness? Triangle of
trees.
Triangle of trees. That's perfect. Of what,
sadness.
But where it's the triangle of what parts you like the best on a tree.
Yeah, it's less of like a citrus triangle.
Yeah, where like you move in between.
It's not really that.
Okay.
It's just like a three pillars of identification.
I see.
It's more of a pillars.
Yeah,
it's more of a pantheon.
Okay. All right. Now I think I'm getting this.
God.
Yeah, are you sweating? Are you okay?
I'm fine.
All right. Well, let's sit
Whenever
back.
I'm developing ideas, I always get
I was getting a little nervous. Well, we can sit back and just hear an interesting story now. We don't need to worry about identifying this tree.
Casey, a little behind the curtains. We recorded last episode yesterday.
Yes, we did.
As of this recording. And I have been looking forward to part 2 of our eco-feminism discussion.
Yes, Alex.
Because I know that today we are getting in the weeds, so to speak.
Sort of.
Regarding Chipko movement, which is sort of where this ecofeminism idea originates from.
It didn't originate from that.
Okay.
But this is kind of a story. The way we talked about last week was kind of the theoretical idea. We said, hey, here is this kind of this philosophical idea that came from, it's kind of an offshoot of feminism, and says the rights of women and environmental rights are entwined. So today, in contrast, we are talking about a more on the ground, physical reality, a physical manifestation of this kind of theoretical thing.
Yes.
So this all kind of the idea of eco-feminism was developed and kind of first written about by Anglo-American writers.
Okay.
And this is from Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and the United States. And there was a little bit of backlash to the idea. They, one, said that this is a little bit elite, and it also is coming from this kind of culture, which is far different than a lot of other cultures, many other cultures across the world. And they also called it essentialist.
What is essentialist?
It's hard for me to describe because I think it's more of a philosophical idea where it basically says this is the only thing, or like this answers the question.
I see.
And doesn't take into account other things that are also doing, have different impacts. Race and class being the two ones that I recall being cited. There is a writer that we introduced last time who I said, I have a feeling she's involved in this, and lo and behold, she absolutely is. And that's Vandana Shiva.
Okay. And
Vandana Shiva is a activist, a writer, and is an extraordinary woman who has done so much. I think last time we talked, and she initially started at a atomic research facility.
That's right, yeah.
And then was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And now became like an eco-feminist and is anti-globalist, anti-development, like became this really important writer for feminism and ecofeminism. And she specifically talked about how women and the environment are immensely connected. So she became this leading voice in ecofeminism. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that she wrote about that I specifically read quite a bit from, so we actually have this part of her book in our show notes.
Fabulous.
The book is called Staying Alive, Women, Ecology, and Development. And she wrote about the women of Chipko. And I read through this entire section. It's such a delight because she gives a history of the Chipko movement and explains from start to finish her ideas and the ideas of the people involved in this.
Great.
And kind of where this theoretical idea of ecofeminism and this on-the-ground ecofeminist action comes and where those two things intersect.
Let's hear about it.
So the Chipko movement started in earnest about 300 years ago, Alex. And it started in this kind of unique way where, well, I say it's not actually unique. As soon as I say it, I'm like, no, I think this happened like all over the place. I just don't think it actually worked. So the entire term Chipko means to embrace, to hug or to cling to, something like that. That's what the term literally means. So the Chipko movement, if you look this up, it all says the tree hugging movement.
Okay.
It's literally how how you translate it. So 300 years ago, there was an area, probably still exists, called Rajasthan. So, and there was a woman named Amrita Devi who lived there. So she and her daughters tried to stop the cutting of many trees that are called a Khejri tree.
Okay.
And that is another hard one. It's Khejri. So I think it's Khejri.
Okay.
So that is a sacred tree in their culture, sacred in Hinduism kind of all around.
Yeah.
Today we'd call it the Persian mesquite, which is Prosopis cineraria. There's so many hard things to pronounce. I'm so sorry, everyone.
We're doing our best.
So these are sacred trees, and there's in fact one, it's called the Tree of Life in Bahrain right now, which is like a very well-known, famous tree. And this particular grove near this particular village next to Amrita Devi was going to be cut down, a bunch of these trees, so that a Raja could build a new palace. It's like the highest level of nobles back then, probably still today. And probably not today, it's the biggest democracy in the world, India. So this was the classic instance of the big nobles saying, hey, we're going to build our palace right here. Everyone get out of the way, cut down all the trees, get rid of it. Which this happened in Europe all the time, right? Like, the nobles decide they're going to cut down things and change the whole world, and then that's just how it is. And
this is pre-colonialism for India, right?
I believe so, yes. This is in the early 1700s. It was still like happening, but I don't think that the British had really come in. But honestly, I don't know 100% for sure.
All right.
So these, the women, specifically led by Amrita Devi, her and her two daughters, or few daughters, went over and said, you can't cut down these trees. The Raja, and well, I guess it was more just a cutting party, said, hey, yeah, we're going to do that unless you bribe us. If you bribe us, we're not going to cut these trees down. And she said, no, I'm not going to do that because this is not something that I have to should have to earn or make you do because of a bribe, or not do because of a bribe. This is not right, and this is the tree that is sacred to us in our culture. So they kill all of them. And then the people from the village said, hey, you can't do this. And so then people volunteered because they were essentially knowing they're going to give up their lives. They would embrace a tree, and it was usually the older people, and they would get killed. And they would cut down the tree. Whoa. So this kept happening, and then people said, oh, you're just sending your old people to go hug trees and get killed. So then everyone else in the village, young people, old people of all genders and types, they started hugging the trees until 364 people were killed.
Oh, my God.
Sorry. 363.
Okay.
They were all killed. And this sent outrage over back to the Raja. And he said, okay, we're not going to cut down any more of these trees. 363 people, Alex.
Damn.
That's how many people gave their lives literally hugging trees while they got killed and then the trees were removed.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Wow.
So they ended up getting this development to stop, this new palace. But that ended up becoming the kind of cultural moment that the Chipko movement ended up coming from. And it came from ultimately a poem that was written in 1973 that goes something like this. Embrace our trees, save them from being felled. The property of our hills, save it from being looted. So that is the poem that all of these women and these people who said in the modern day, we need to save our trees. So what were they saving their trees from, Alex? It turns out that these trees in the modern day, which is actually in the 1970s, so still 50 years ago, they were going to be cut down in terms of commercial forestry. Now it's in the northern, kind of the northern point of India, in the kind of foothills-ish of the Himalaya. This is a place that has a lot of these trees, these Himalayan evergreen oaks. And this is where people go out into the forest and collect fodder, which is basically bits of trees, branches, and that kind of thing to feed to their livestock. In this case, cows specifically, which, as you know, sacred in India.
Yes.
So these women were always going out and using the forest to get fodder, to get firewood for food. It also is the place that keeps our water clean, that keeps our air clean, that keeps the ground from eroding away because you have a canopy of trees, an understory, a full ecosystem that keeps the literal monsoon rains from washing away the ground.
All those ecosystem services.
It's exactly right. So they also have large growing chirpines there, these tall trees. And what was happening is the government said, great, we are going to give out contracts for the local corporation to go and cut down all of these trees. So these women started to get together and they started to use the term Chipko, which was, again, from that poem. So they started this movement called the Chipko movement, and they started to spread to all these other villages because all of these companies were coming in and they were about to cut down all the trees. So they literally did the same thing. They hugged the trees. They embraced them. They held onto the trees and said, you're going to have to cut through me to cut this tree down. Luckily, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
In fact, I have not read any instance where they did, in fact, harm anyone. Well, I guess maybe they harmed him, but they didn't kill anybody in a particular way. Because you can imagine they probably tried to force people off the trees and pull them. We've had that happen here in the United States. But I don't believe that anyone was killed directly because of this.
That is good,
so far as I can see.
Okay.
So what happened is they started to get this movement which said, you guys are all trying to come in and cut down these trees for resin and for timber. You're causing all of this ecological harm, which is making it impossible for us, the women, to get fodder, get food, keep our water clean, keep our literal ground around us, we are the ones who are working in the forest. And there's a funny interaction that I wanted to share. This is also written in Shiva's book. So she tells a story where there's a confrontation between a forester and some of the women, these Chipko activists. The women say that they are there to teach these men how to do forestry. And the one of these foresters replied and he said, "You foolish women, how can you who prevent the felling of trees know the value of the forest? Do you know what the forests bear? And they produce profits in resin and timber." And the women immediately sang back in chorus, "What do the forests bear? Soil, water, and pure air. Soil, water, and pure air sustain the earth and all she bears."
Oh.
So they sent that back and said, yeah, we actually have a whole song prepared because we knew you were going to ask that, which personally I think is great.
Awesome.
And it ended up being that they were like, no, we are in this forest every single day, but the men are the ones who tend to be further out, focusing on a different kind of forest product.
Okay.
And this Shiva also talks about in her book, again, that's Staying Alive, Women, Ecology, and Development. And she quotes Sarala Ben, who also wrote a book called Blueprint for Survival. She said, here are the Chipko's demands. "We must remember that the main role of the hill forest should not be to yield revenue, but to maintain a balance in the climatic conditions of the whole of northern India and the fertility of the Gangetic Plain," which is the plain for the Ganges River.
Okay.
"If we ignore their ecological importance in favor of their short-term economic utility, it will be prejudicial to the climate of northern India and will dangerously enhance the cycle of reoccurring and alternating floods and droughts." So they're basically saying,
Very logical.
we can't do this. It is. It's very logical. And we have this discussion in the United States all the time. We have environmentalists saying these are more important, these forests, than just the trees and the wood that we get from them.
What I like about that is that it's very logical, but it's also at the same time based in like emotion.
It is, yeah.
It's like based in like an intimate connection with the earth, but it's also like, well, that also comes from a very logical place, backed up by like facts and science.
Exactly. Yeah. We can now look at this and say, wow, we can investigate it and do these science and do our reductionist science to pull these things apart. But they are saying, no, we can't reduce these in terms of science. And if we put them all together, we see all these huge benefits in this big basket. And that is what the forest is providing.
Great.
So Vandana Shiva continues, and she writes, there are two kinds of forestry today, two paradigms of forestry. One, life-enhancing, the other, life-destroying. The life-enhancing paradigm emerges from the forest and the feminine principle. The life-destroying one from the factory and the market. And she continues, the maintenance of conditions for renewability is the former's primary management objective, while the maximizing of profits through commercial extraction is the primary management objective of the latter.
Say that one more time.
The maintenance of conditions for renewability. So remember, they want to make sure to maintain the renewability of this area.
Okay.
That is the former's primary management objective, the life-enhancing one. While maximizing the profits through commercial extraction is the primary management objective of the latter, which is the life-destroying management scheme, paradigm.
The irony being that, as far as I know, Casey, tell me if I'm wrong, please, that focusing on renewability is also good for business.
It is. That's exactly right. Yes. Like you have hit the nail on the head right there, which is the same thing that we've talked about before in terms of last week, capitalism being a big issue, and the idea of having something that continually refeeds into itself. It's the classic balance in ecosystem services in any ecology. Everything is in a certain amount of balance. Even if you take some trees here, some trees there are others that grow back, which is why people say, oh, well, forestry is a renewable resource. It's like, yes, growing those trees are, but you're literally missing the forest for the trees.
Yes.
They are saying, this is a forest. Yes, you can come take things from it, but don't take the whole forest.
Yeah.
So that is where this kind of this hard description that she gives really strikes with me, where she is saying terms that I heard in forestry, like short-term economics, which is get as much as you can right now. Don't worry about whatever's happening in the future.
Yeah.
This paradigm of the market saying, hey, this is what's driving the resource extraction, rather than what we over in the United States would call science, what everyone else is just slapping themselves on the head saying, you idiots, it's just the natural way that we as humans interact with our forests and the rest of nature. We don't need science to prove that.
Right.
So it all comes together to, I think particularly Shiva, says very explicitly, so easily, here's the market destroying things, and here is another paradigm that says, no, let's keep this for all these other reasons, which are ultimately larger and more important than that short-term economic expenditure that you're getting.
Yeah. I mean, the capitalism is like designed for the latter, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
To just destroy, earn, and move on.
Exactly, yeah. It's what happened with our forestry. Go back and listen to our Eastern White Pine episodes.
What was that company called?
That was Weyerhaeuser.
Weyerhaeuser.
Yeah.
I think about them all the time.
Yeah, it's because they're everywhere. They're still here doing the same thing.
Are they really? They're still in business?
Oh, yeah, they're huge. They just moved their headquarters, I think, to downtown Seattle, like probably a decade ago. They used to have this big, beautiful building outside Tacoma. It was great. So it is this. It is a constant thing, I think, that we find in our culture, and in this case, the way that eco-feminism has really like shown and manifested here is that this whole Chipko movement is specifically come from women, from women who are in this environment working for all these things. And when I looked up a bunch of stuff about this oak tree, there's a couple of things from the International Oak Society. And when you look at pictures of, they're saying, oh, well, the villagers go out and collect things. And all the pictures are just women with giant packs of leaves on their backs because that's what they do. And so they are the ones who are working and are more closely related to the forest. So if we go back into even our own histories of everyone else around the world, often the gendered responsibilities in villages or in hunter-gathering societies is you have the men would go do the hunting and the women would go do the gathering.
Yeah.
So even in that case, if we go to almost every single culture, it's still women who are very much more connected to this environment. And then as capitalism came through and colonialism, and we said, great, we're going to cut down all these trees, then it destroyed all the indigenous cultures and those relationships, and it forced this other cultural understanding of the usefulness of a forest, which is not what it always must be. It doesn't always have to be the opposite, but this, I think, is really interesting because it basically says, so here's this idea of ecofeminism, and here's how it actually plays out in the real world.
Yeah.
And it really shows you that like you can take theory and turn it into action and see, there's a real connection there. It's not just some idea that someone came up with and wrote in a book and then patted themselves on the back for.
Were there other examples of practical application of ecofeminism through history, or was this sort of like the big tentpole movement?
I'm sure that there is, honestly. Yeah. I have not looked up much of those because I particularly wanted to focus on this one. Of
course, yeah.
But I guarantee that there has been across everywhere. I mean, just reading through the history of the tribes in the Willamette Valley, right here where we live, the women would go out and collect wapido, which is kind of this wetland plant. We call it the Sagittarius. It's this plant that grows in like very kind of shallow lake waters. And it's got this big bulb at the base of it that's edible. I kind of smash it and roast it into a little kind of meal.
Okay.
And that was the job for women. They would go out, they would use their feet. It's actually kind of a fun idea. They would walk into the forest or into the pond. They kind of feel around and they would dig in the mush with their feet and pull it up.
Grab it with their toes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Funny.
So they would do that. And then in the Willamette Valley, they explicitly drained all of these areas to get rid of those plants. They plowed the fields of camas, which is also where the women would come out with sticks and they would dig in and pull up camas lily, which those bulbs also were really super nutritious. These are the two big staples of the people in the Willamette Valley. So we came through and we got rid of their food sources and their way of making any kind of sustenance living by draining it and then turning it into wheat farms or grass farms or whatever it is now, or was then in the 1850s. So that is also, I don't know necessarily that the women started a movement, but it was mostly the women of the tribes who were doing these kinds of things connected to the land in that particular way.
Yeah.
So I bet you if we looked, we'd find it. But did we get a movement? I'm not 100% sure if there's something as kind of as succinct and easily kind of able to be pointed at.
Yeah, just because the
Chipko
history wasn't written about it doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Precisely, yeah.
Okay, interesting case.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that tale. I appreciate it.
It's just a fascinating thing, and I really hope that we kind of see this, because environmental rights, women's rights, trans rights, the rights of everyone, social justice is environmental justice. You just can never pull these things apart. You can't solve one thing without solving the other. And as soon as you destroy one, you destroy the other, or at least you heavily, heavily impact it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels a little desperate right now. Mm-hmm. Like we're getting further away from realizing these rights.
Yeah, we're in the take one step back phase.
Yeah, but you know what follows?
The apocalypse?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
All right. Everyone, go pop yourself some champagne.
That's so funny. All right. Well, hey, before that, we got to give a rating to this tree. Before that, we got to take a break. We'll be right back with Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. It's time for our rating. And as I look over to our Pro Tools project, it says Himalayan Pine, but that's not going to happen. We're going to give a rating to Banj. Casey, here's how it works. We're going to have some final thoughts on the Banj. Give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden cones of honor. As our resident expert, we'll begin with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. So I think this tree is pretty spectacular. It has an exotic oakness to it, which I like, where you have a tree that grows like an oak, but also is exotic. Yeah, that's a very, very nice rounded circular argument there.
It's like seeing a Westerosi in Pentos.
Yes.
Wow. So
wearing
far from home.
Pentos clothes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You speak the common tongue?
I think that, so I like how it looks, and I like all the small little intricacies to it, and I love the idea of seeing an oak tree that, just does not, it does oak things, but you're like, wow, you look like you're just translated in a different world. You know?
Yeah, interesting.
So I do like that about it quite a lot. And I also enjoy the way that this tree kind of gives. It reminds me of a lot of trees in Europe that we've heard lots about, that we would do coppicing on or something, and then the new shoots would grow out, and we'd use those often. So this is a tree that's used in that same way. But there's been so much use of it that it actually had to be reforested and all these things. There's a whole other story we could tell about this tree, Alex. And I really do enjoy a tree that is so uniquely entwined with people and the environment that it's almost like it is a keystone species, but not for other, ecological things like what we've talked about before, but a keystone species in like a cultural way.
A human culture keystone species.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool.
There are a few of those. I really like that.
Yeah.
Premise,
So I think this tree is, I think it's pretty great. It doesn't get super tall. I think we should plant it more. I've heard of some down in LA that are pretty large that I'd love to see sometime. But I think overall, I'm going to give this a straight 8.7.
All right.
And the reason I want to do that is because the reason I'm not going any higher, any lower, is that I think it just plays this nice role where the tree itself is not a leading star. It is a part of a whole ensemble of
supporting
things.
cast.
Exactly, yeah. Where I think that is... I just think it's a beautiful thing. I like the idea of a tree like, no, I'm here to support everyone else.
That's great.
And it just so happens that I do a good job of it.
It's like a social worker.
Yeah, it's a social tree. Yeah.
Great.
There you go. I think 8.7, Alex. What do you think?
The Banj.
Le Banj.
Le Banj.
I know, it sounds French, doesn't it?
Le Banj. That's all the French I know. Just 0.
The word "the" and another word from a different language.
Right. I like this tree. I mean, it's my first time. Today's my first day getting to know it. I love all the triangle, the 3 pillars I love those 3 pillars. Great leaves, great acorn, great bark, good form, nice tree.
It makes me sound like you're describing like a sports player. It's got great form. I really like the way they have this triangle. It's really strong.
He's got great reach. And I'm going to give it a 7.25.
7.25. Love it.
Which is a really solid score. I don't,
You don't have to.
not
defend
everything
your score.
has to be 9 plus. 7.25 is great.
Yeah.
That's where I land on Banj, aka Himalayan evergreen oak.
I think it's fabulous. What a fabulous tree.
Casey, speaking of fabulous, it's time for a fabulous game.
What? All right.
This is the Slang Game. Slang makes the thought so much shorter. Slang used among folks in the culture. Slang words that mean other words. Slang. All right, Casey.
Man, I'm not a good singer, but I love doing it so much.
Hey, you did great. Well, this is the Slang Game, Casey.
All right.
Medieval Weaponry Edition.
I should have known when you told me what you were looking up earlier. Oh, God.
I'm on a bit of a kick. I'm reading Dance of Dragons. I'm playing Kingdom Come Deliverance. I gotta do it.
All right. I say, hey, this is what this podcast is all about.
I've been on a kick for about 25 years.
Uh-oh. Yep, he's still kicking it.
All right, Casey. So
Okay.
here's how it works. I'm going to give you a word that is a medieval weapon.
Okay.
And then we are going to kind of propose what that word might mean if it were applied to trees, removed from its current definition. So let's just dive right in.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir. My lord.
Mangonel.
Mangonel?
Mangonel.
Okay.
What would a mangonel be in tree terms?
Honestly, it's a scientific name for sure. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it could be on either side. Quercus mangonel, or it could be the mangonel pine.
Okay, where does it come from?
It's definitely southeastern Asia, and it also grows.
This kind of sounds like Mongolia.
No, to me it sounds like mangle, as in
Sure.
rhizophobia. Rhizophobia, did I say that right? The mangrove.
So it might be like a description of how it grows.
Yeah. So it has stilt roots.
A mangle-like
It
tree.
looks like a mangle, exactly.
Mangonel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the mangonel.
Perfect. So a mangonel, do you know what a mangonel is?
I have no idea. I've never heard of this.
It's a type of catapult.
A type of catapult.
Yeah.
Kind of like a trebuchet, but made from, I don't know, the Germans.
Yeah, much shorter and doesn't have a counterweight, so it just goes boom.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's just on the ground like this,
Man.
Little mangonel.
Very clever and creative, those medievalers.
Oh, yeah. When they wanted to knock a wall down, they knew how.
They figured it out.
For as anti-war, and I hate when people like talk about guns like it's a hobby, like it's cool.
Okay.
It makes me cringe because I just think about all the people who have died from that shit.
Yeah.
I kind of am on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to
medieval
warfare.
weapons.
Yeah.
It is. I'm there with you. I'm very fascinated by war and ancient history.
Yes.
As well as, more recent history too. But
I'm really only fascinated by ancient war, not modern war.
yeah, exactly. I wonder if there's just this separation from it.
I think so. It's like
get in-
fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to get into that
Yeah.
sometime.
I just think it's especially face-to-face combat, which we don't really do anymore.
No, not really.
Like walking up to a guy who wants to kill you with a big metal pointy thing.
Yeah.
And you have a big metal pointy thing and you got to kill him first.
Go.
Is like fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Okay.
With that, let's move on to our next one.
Okay.
Bec de Corbin.
Bec de Corbin?
Yes, it is 3 words. B-E-C, Bec de Corbin.
Okay, so it's French.
Bec de Corbin.
Okay, so I decide it is in fact one word, all smashed together.
Okay.
And it is ideally the sweet, delicious thing inside of a fruit.
The flesh, or like the
yeah.
okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
The fleshy material.
I was thinking more like the more like chemicals in the flesh that make it tasty.
Oh, sure.
That's what I was thinking. Like, what makes the fruit tastes so good.
It's an enzyme called beta-corbin.
Yeah, it's so tasty. If it doesn't have
Okay.
any beta-corbin in it, then it's like super astringent and gross. It's like
Interesting.
eating a dried pea.
Yum. Okay, I think it
think.
is a growth pattern.
A growth pattern.
You see how the tree kind of splits off there into two main stems?
yeah.
That's we call that a beta-corbin.
I see. It's the Becht of Corbin.
And it's named after a church.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it kind of looks like the steeple of this famous cathedral. It's kind of a beta-corbin.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I love that. Okay, that's good. That's fun.
A beta-corbin is a pole weapon. You know what a pole weapon is?
Is that a weapon that you pull?
It's a weapon that's on a pole, P-O-L-E.
Okay.
Like a long weapon. Like a spear is a pole weapon.
See. Yeah.
And it's sort of like a little hammer
Yeah.
at the end of a pole. It's got a spike on the end of it, so you can use it to stab, to slash, because it has a thing on the back.
This is so French.
Yeah.
For sure. I can picture this exact thing.
Totally.
Because it almost looks like a fleur-de-lis or something
Yes,
like that.
totally, yeah.
All right, yeah. I think I've seen these before.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Okay,
a
back to Corbin. So sweet.
Arbalist. This one's got it right in the name.
Yeah, this is going to be using a tree as a catapult. That's it. So you don't even do anything to it. You just leave the tree exactly where it is. You pull on it and it flings something away from it.
Okay.
That's how it's related to trees. It's not so natural as it is radical.
Like you turn the tree into an arbalist?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like making a swing, but the swing shoots things via a rubber band.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chirpine.
Sure, Pine. I think an arbalist is like, I didn't go to school for forestry. I'm not an arborist.
Mm-hmm.
I took this other program. I'm an arbalist.
Yeah.
and you have to explain the difference over and over and over.
It's just the one in the Spanish-speaking country.
An arbalist. Well, Casey, an arbalist is a type of crossbow.
A crossbow.
It's
okay,
a hand
yeah.
crank. So
the
big innovations with the crossbow is like, it started where you had to like pull it, which is very hard to reset it. And then they had like kind of a flip switch that did that for you.
Oh,
and then they had
yeah.
arbalists, which were like, you crank, and it cranks it up and sets it.
Wow, what a weird thing.
I know. And then came the hand cannon. And from there, it was like, oh, this is way better.
Yeah, this is way better. And from there...
That's kind of where the hand cannon is kind of where my interest stops.
Yeah,
I'm like,
is
that's
it?
a little
Okay.
too digital. I like it analog.
Yeah, no,
know?
gotcha. Yeah, I totally get you.
All right.
That's so good.
Next up.
Okay.
A petard.
A petard?
P-E-T-A-R-D. A lot of these are French.
Yeah, okay. So if I'm thinking, what does a petard have to do with trees? The first thing that I first think of is something that comes from like an owl or like an owl pellet kind of thing.
Interesting.
It's a petard.
Like a mouse carcass.
Yeah, because that's when they cough them up because they can't digest everything.
Yeah.
They can't pass it.
That's a petard.
That was my first thought, but that's not really tree related. That's bird related. This is not a bird podcast. So I think that it is in fact the glob of sap that a tree exudes when it's trying to get rid of something.
Oh, interesting.
So, beetle bores into it or moth larva, and it's like, and it pushes out this big glob of stuff.
That's called a
that glob
petard.
of stuff is a petard.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's what I think it
good.
is. Yeah. Don't touch that petard. Or actually, grab it and let's look into it. You can find the little beetle that it pushed out.
Oh, yeah.
There you go, kids.
Take that home.
Yeah.
Put
Put it in your pocket.
Petard. I think a petard is like maybe a type of saw.
A saw.
Yeah, like we
Give me
can't.
my petard.
We can't use a hand saw for that. It's a little too whatever.
It's a little
Grab
too-
the petard from the truck.
Yeah, I see. All right.
That's kinda
Oui,
where
oui.
So a petard is fucking interesting. It's a small bomb, basically.
What?
So it's imagine like a bucket
Okay.
turned its face onto a wall, and the bucket is filled with fire. What's it called? Gunpowder.
Gunpowder. Okay. Yeah.
And with a wick coming out of the top of it.
Yeah.
And it's on a stand, so it sits right up against the wall.
Okay.
You light the fuse, get the fuck out, and it blows a hole in the wall.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So it's like a very short-range cannon.
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. Where it just literally concusses the wall down.
Yes, yeah.
How weird.
Yeah, very.
Never knew that.
very
Is that the same thing that the orc took in? To...
No, that was just a bomb.
Oh, okay,
That was a
yeah.
cartoon bomb.
Yeah, it was classic. Yeah.
Yeah. Last one,
Okay, what do we got?
poignard.
Poignard.
This is Poignard.
Poignard.
Also French, I think.
Yeah, it is. It makes me think of poignant, which is like a very sharply well-made point.
Interesting.
Which makes me think that it is a giant spike on a tree. Not just a thorn, not just like a thing. It's like that's a giant spike.
Like we need to get rid of that. It's dangerous to humans.
Yeah, exactly. It's dangerous for everything. In fact, it's dangerous for this tree.
Okay.
If that tree falls, it's going to stab itself.
Interesting.
That's what I think.
Poignard.
A poignard. And this, of course, is a French. In American, we would just be like, or in English, we would just be like, that's giant thorn. But French have better names for things.
Poignard.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. It's a little close to home, if I'm honest.
Okay. Are you? Is there a tree around you that's caught? You can tell me, Alex.
I should say a little on the nose.
Oh, okay.
But I think
you're
a
being
poignard
threatened by a tree. You need to tell me.
I know I'm stuck on this idea, but I think a poignard is like the shape of pruning kind of mistake.
Oh, a mistake.
Like they over pruned this tree.
Yeah, it's a little too.
It's a poignard now,
Yeah.
or it's poignard.
Oh, yeah.
know?
Okay, so it's more like a noun saying it is poignard.
An adjective.
An adjective.
Yeah.
It is poignard.
It's
To be poignard.
Yeah. So a poignard, I said a little too on the nose. A poignard is a dagger.
It is. Okay, just a standard dagger.
Yeah, just your
Poignard.
Just your classic close quarters, or in conjunction with a rapier.
I usually throw mine.
Oh,
My
cool.
poignards, yeah. From,
That's fun.
a distance away.
All right, Casey, that was the Slang Game.
Wow, what a good one. I always love when you add weird things that I don't expect into the show. You're like, yeah, we're going to play a game, but you're not gonna guess what it is.
My favorite thing.
That's great.
It's time for our completely arbitrary AMA. If you want to ask a question on the podcast, become a Premium member at arbitrarypod.supercast.com. And this week, Casey, we've got a bit of an interesting one.
Curious.
The way it comes to us.
Okay.
This one came to us through email.
Email?
From Phoebe.
Okay.
Now, Phoebe, if I recall, had a hell of a time trying to sign up for Supercast.
Okay.
Because Phoebe lives in a country that doesn't use credit cards, really. And Supercast kept rejecting payment method, and it was like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so definitely would be a premium member.
Yes.
If not for this barrier.
I understand.
So I am accepting Phoebe's email question.
Okay.
And here it goes. Hi, Casey and Alex.
Hello, Phoebe.
It's always a surprise which tree you talk about every week. And it's
Nice.
amazing that even after so many episodes, you still bring us a unique story every time. That's all Casey.
Thank you.
I was wondering whether there is a specific tree that Alex is looking forward to doing an episode about. And if not, is there a tree that combines Alex's favorite aspects like bark, leaf shape, color, flower color, etc. into one?
That's that triangle.
That's the three pillars
Interesting.
of the Crowson system.
The Crowson system.
I thought a good place to start. What's a tree that we haven't done that we're looking forward to?
Ooh, okay. That is lovely. There is a few trees that I'm looking forward to covering.
We were doing one in our food thing.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Oh, avocado?
I don't think we've done avocado.
Casey, I know my answer.
Yeah, I was like, this sounds like your answer right there.
Avocado.
I want to do, the rubber tree is one of mine. Avocado, that's going to be good.
I cannot believe we haven't done avocado.
We have 30 days to do avocado before tariffs will make them far too expensive.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, avocados, and then I'm going to make us guacamole for trail snacks.
Yeah, please do. I'm so ready for that. Let's see. This is interesting. Okay, so avocado, I think, is a good example of a tree that's got all these things. But the thing that you love the most is a tree that provides a delicious fruit.
Yes.
Obviously,
Like
avocado. It's a great example. But I do also think that you tend to like trees that show... you like trees that give back. I like trees. We both like trees that fight back a little bit. Those ones are always fun. So a tree that we are both really looking forward to like that.
This is a spoiler for later this year.
Oh.
Pistachio.
Oh, the pistachio. Okay.
That's kind of, I would say that is the one that I'm really looking forward to besides avocado.
Okay. Honestly, I'm trying. Well, we're going to cover no. I don't want to give that one away though. But there's another tree that I'm really excited to research. But that one we're going to do in June when we do our tropical vacation.
That's right.
But I don't want to share that one because I like the surprise of it.
Okay, great.
And I don't want anyone. As soon as you look it up, you'll know what we're going to talk about.
Cool.
So I'm not going to tell you.
That's a good question. Little teasers for the future of Completely Arbortrary.
Yeah, but let's see. Just a quick little behind the scenes. I can never choose which tree to do and which topic. Oftentimes, when we started, it was easy. It was like, oh, we're doing this topic, we're doing this tree.
Sure.
Lodgepole pine is great. In fact, I thought about that story for years before we did it. So now...
Only for me to not remember what it was.
That was Death by 1,000 Beetles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so I am now like, okay, is there an interesting story that I want to tell? Let's go find some trees that are related to it. Then sometimes I'm like, oh, this is an interesting tree. I want to talk about it. And I usually try to find something related to it. But if there's not, then I just talk about the tree half the time.
What ratio would you say is like the idea comes first from the tree and first from the story?
I think nowadays we are probably leaning 60-40, maybe almost 70-30 towards idea followed by tree.
But when it first started, maybe it was like the other way around.
Yeah, it definitely was the other way around because there were trees that I was stoked to talk about that had a particular thing.
Sure.
But then once we've kind of run that gamut, now it's like, okay, now we've kind of told a story. Like ants is a great example. We could talk about ants and trees all day long. There's so many different examples, but once you talk about one, you can't really talk about it again with a different tree.
Sure.
So you got to come up with a new thing that has this kind of unique and special about this other tree that has something to do with ants.
It's like finding entry points into like a subject.
Exactly.
Like you can talk about one subject 100 times as long as you find different entry points into that subject.
Yes, that is really what I try to do most often.
Yeah, I think you do a great job.
Wow,
Case.
thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.
I don't think about this enough where I'm like, we've been doing this. I think we're coming up on episode 200.
Wow.
Of the Mainline podcast.
Incredible.
And I actually need to check on that so we can do something special. But I'm just blown away that like every week we show up and you have something new to talk about. It's crazy.
It's always going to
happen.
happen.
Never ending well.
Yeah. And we haven't even dove into things that we could dive back into.
Yeah.
Which I've thought about a few times.
Some stuff we just skim the surface of a subject.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's an hour 20 long podcast.
Yeah.
And if we really wanted to deep dive on some of this stuff, it would be like a 4-hour thing.
It'd be way too long. It would be uninteresting. You'd fall asleep halfway through. By you, I mean Alex.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm not talking about you guys out there. Yeah, and you know what else? There's also, we have to go back through because a lot of stuff, certainly at the beginning, we would talk about it, but not really, keep track of it. It was just kind of like, yeah, let's talk about this subject. And now I'm like, well, we kind of talked about that, but when did we redo that one? So there's some things that I think we just touched on that now I want to go back and say, no, let's go further into it. Then if we choose that topic, we can choose any tree because most trees, they share a lot of things in common.
Yeah,
Phototropism is a great example.
Oh, sure.
But we talked about that already.
Or soil or leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think, mushrooms is another great one where we could talk about 10,000 different trees, all about mushrooms, and that kind of thing. But anyway.
There you go.
Another example. Great question.
Thank you, Phoebe. And we're so sorry about your credit card woes.
Yeah, thanks for supporting us, though. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, always. And if you'd like to support us and the podcast, go to arbitrarypod.supercast.com. Become a premium member today. Casey, clap.
Alex Crowson.
We did it again.
You clapped when you said
That's
my
right,
name,
yes,
so I had to try my best.
I need some sort of... There's a house in Song of Ice and Fire that their seat of power is called Crow's Nest.
Yes.
Down in Dorne, and or in the marches between Dorne and the Stormlands. And I want to figure out what their crest is.
Their sigil.
Yes, put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah, I bet you can find that out pretty easy.
That's my thought. That's the way I'm ending this episode.
All right, bye everyone.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Completely Arbitrary. We'll see you next time. Bye. Completely Arbitrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp. Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals. If you want to support this podcast and become a Treemium member, head over to arbitrarypod.supercast.com. Thanks for listening.